President-elect Donald Trump has announced a new plan to change how elections are run in the United States after accepting Fox Nation's Patriot of the Year award. Hey, I thought that Republicans didn't believe in participation trophies, but all right. Especially to a man who attempted to overturn an election that he had legitimately lost in 2020. Somehow that guy is Patriot of the Year. Well, anyway, after accepting it, he told the crowd about his plan to fix elections. He said, quote, "We need to get things straightened out in this country, including elections. We're going to do things that have really been needed for a long time. And we are going to look at elections. We want to have paper ballots, one-day voting, voter ID, and proof of citizenship." So those are his changes, right? Now, here's the thing. According to the Brennan Center, 98% of all counties in the United States use paper ballots. So, good job. Gonna get that 2% to use paper ballots? And when it comes to voter ID, it turns out 8 states have enacted voter ID laws since 2020, which brings it to a total of 35 states that require a government-issued ID to vote in person. Of these, 24 require a photo identification, such as a driver's license or a U.S. passport. So, there you go. It's most of the country. Now, the issue, of course, with this and his citizenship papers requirement is that it obviously would disproportionately disenfranchise non-white Americans. Of course. Now, why is that? That's because that paperwork is just not as easily accessible to certain people. Turns out you need to have money. I know. Or have reliable transportation, or hell, even just time off to hit the Secretary of State's office to get the required paperwork. It's not impossible to do, obviously, but it is a pain in the ass. Some people can't afford to take a day off to wait in line for a voter ID. Not everybody is able to drive, so they wouldn't have a driver's license, whether it be from disability or poverty, can't afford a car. Not everybody has access to or even needs a vehicle. Why should your right to vote be based on your access to reliable transportation? Of course, that applies to also showing up at the polling place in person. Here's the problem. Voting shouldn't come down to having money, but unfortunately, that's the model that Republicans are going forward with. Basically showing you that, hey, if you're poor, then we don't want you to vote. Why is that? Well, oftentimes, if you're poor, you're not voting Republican. Just saying. Now, this group of voters disproportionately is not disproportionately non-white and identifies as independent or Democrat, according to NPR. Now, that said, this election, Donald Trump did get a lot of members of the working class. All right, but let's be clear, they got a lot of white guys. All right, especially young white men. And so let's be very clear about which parts of the working class did go towards Donald Trump. Now, that said, Trump also went after mail-in and early voting. In 2024, 88,233,886 mail-in and early person votes were cast nationally, with 47 states now allowing some form of early voting. So, but he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. Now, of course, some people ask, well, what's the issue with you not being able to show up on election day? Other people could do it. Well, for one, you can't always take time off of work, can't always afford to take time off work. Maybe you've got kids. Maybe you live in a city where you have lines that can take hours and hours to go through. Those are problems. And look, the other thing is a move back to single-day voting would hurt rural voters, particularly in swing states that have high rates of early voters, a large number of whom actually did vote for Donald Trump in the past. Now, this would also disproportionately affect disabled voters whose voter participation was boosted in 2020 thanks to mail-in voting. So, at the end of the day, look, unless Donald Trump designates a voter holiday for all of his proposed changes and assistance to people to help them get voter IDs, then this is nothing more than just voter suppression based on nonsense conspiracy theories. Okay. Remember, Trump had called mail-in ballots, quote, both dangerous and corrupt, claiming that they lead to, quote, massive electoral fraud and a rigged 2020 election. He then blamed mail-in ballots for his election loss, even though he had himself used mail-in ballots. And in 2024, Trump and his campaign actively encouraged early voting. In a series of virtual town halls and robocalls, Trump's daughter-in-law, as well as Donald Trump, actively encouraged voters to take advantage of early voting options, including mail-in ballots. So, yeah, Laura Trump happens to be co-chair of the Republican National Committee. So, basically, there's a lot of hypocrisy here. Okay? Now, here's the thing, though. While there have been some isolated cases of election fraud as a result of postal voting, such as in the 2018 North Carolina primary, which was rerun after a consultant for the Republican candidate tampered with absentee voting papers, the rate of voter fraud overall in the U.S. is less than 0.0009%. Yeah. So we're getting into the 0.000s. Okay. This is according to a 2017 study by the Brennan Center for Justice. Now, there has been people that commit in-person voter fraud, sometimes voting twice. The vast majority of those happen to be Republicans. Ironic. Trump voters. In fact, FEC head Ellen Weintraub said, there's simply no basis for the conspiracy theory that voting by mail causes fraud. Yeah, so, look, all of this seems like a way to blame his previous loss on non-existent voter fraud, right? And then to fix it while disenfranchising Democratic voters so that Republicans can continue to win elections until their voters realize that they're being robbed by Republicans. I mean, that's the reality, right? We all know Republican voters vote against their own material interests. If they're members of the working class, if they're union members, things like that, they're voting against themselves, right? Now, the Republican voters who are not voting against themselves are primarily people who are super wealthy. So obviously they're going to help themselves because Donald Trump's going to give them a whole bunch of tax cuts. Yes. But as far as the working class voters, they're distracted by wedge issues. Like, for example, the trans issue. Like, they spent over $200 million on anti-trans ads. Okay. Polling suggests that people believe that, like, trans people are like 20% of the population. They're less than 1%. 1%. Okay. They believe gay people are 20% of the population. Nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. Okay. So they play up, though, these wedge issues that really don't affect them at all. And then, of course, you have people that are exposed, the same people are exposed to massive amounts of pro-billionaire propaganda and lies. They think that lies are the truth, up is down, slavery is freedom, and that Donald Trump, who's never shied away from, pulling a con on his supporters, is somehow a fearless truth teller who deserves to be the leader of this country. He's the only guy who's telling the truth. No. Look, all he's going to do is pick our pockets. Okay. While Republicans try to ensure one-party rule through disenfranchising voters. That is the plan, and I hope that they do not succeed. It appears that President-elect Donald Trump is assembling the wealthiest cabinet the country, nay, the world, has ever seen. Starting to look a lot like out there. At least 11 of Trump's picks for strategic positions have either achieved billionaire status, or they have billionaire spouses, or are real close to be able to grab in that bag. All right? That billionaire bag. The net result is that this will be the wealthiest administration in U.S. history, worth a total of $340 billion just at the start of this week, before Donald Trump further boosted its monetary value by trying to appoint at least 3 more billionaires. Yes, this is even more out of touch wealthy since Trump's first cabinet. Okay, this cabinet will be, which was at the time the richest U.S. cabinet ever formed, containing such super rich members as Rex Tillerson, or I like to call him Tex Drillerson, the former chief executive of ExxonMobil, and Wilbur Ross, the commerce secretary who had become wealthy through restructuring bankrupt companies. Other members include WWE co-founder Linda McMahon as education secretary, worth $2.6 billion. Warren Stevens, ambassador to the UK, worth $3.3 billion. Charles Kushner, father of Jared Kushner, the ambassador to France, $2.9 billion net worth. Jared Isaacman, a NASA administrator, worth $1.9 billion. Kelly Loeffler, small business administrator, at $1.1 billion. Stephen Feinberg, deputy defense secretary, worth just $5 billion. Oh, just $5 billion. Oh, okay. Howard Lutnick, commerce secretary, worth $2 billion. Doug Burgum, the interior secretary, worth $1.1 billion. And by the way, Burgum's friend, Harold Hamm, is an oil magnate billionaire. So we know what direction his interior department is going to go. Drill, baby, drill. So, yeah. Great. Now, of course, the wealthiest member of Trump's 2024 class is, of course, the world's richest man-child, Elon Musk. That's right.
Elon
Musk, along with Vivek Ramaswamy, another tech entrepreneur who's said to be worth at least $1 billion, they're together going to be running the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, like the little dog. Funny about that, DOGE's not a real department. Okay, it's got to actually be authorized by Congress to be a real department. So it's basically just sitting outside of government with a couple of billionaires, basically trying to figure out, hey, what parts of government can we cut? I know they're talking about we're gonna stop government waste. How are they gonna do that? Well, so far, they're talking about going after Medicaid, talking about going after veterans' health care, talking about Social Security, that's on the table, Medicare, all that stuff. So, yeah, not good. Whereas we could look at some of the real waste, like in the Pentagon, or the massive amounts of corporate subsidies, yes, that are going to people like Elon Musk. Oh, well, then I guess we're not going to look at that. Now, here's the other thing, right? Donald Trump's pick for Center for Medicare Services, right, Dr. Oz, he wants to put all the seniors into United Healthcare Group type Medicare Advantage plans, to get rid of traditional Medicare and put everybody on these Medicare Advantage plans. I can't imagine that would be all that popular, considering the reaction to the CEO of United Healthcare Group, that his murder earlier this week. These Medicare Advantage plans, specifically for United Healthcare, actually used a faulty AI algorithm to deny claims. Now, why do I say faulty with, quotation marks? It had a 90% error rate. Now, you could look at that and say, well, that seems faulty to me. 90% error rate? Wow. No, but to them, understand that it's working as intended. Why? Because United Healthcare saved money by denying people care, which in a lot of cases ended up killing the patient because they weren't getting the care that they needed. So, this is the candidate, Trump, who claimed he's going to be looking out for the working class. He's going to help everybody, lower the price of groceries, lower the price of drugs. It's got concepts of a plan for healthcare. Yeah, okay, Sure. Let me just say,
Bullshit. Bullshit.
yeah. Nothing says working class like setting up a literal oligarchy that is going to and is designed to suck out all the money from government programs and put it into his and his friends and donors' pockets. That's the whole point. Okay, this government that Trump is setting up, it is going to be an oligarchic kleptocracy, but also elements of kakistocracy because these people are unqualified to run any of these departments. They don't have any experience. But remember, they're not set there. They weren't appointed to run these departments efficiently and to do what these departments want. No. They're set up to destroy these departments, to privatize them, and push all that government money into private hands. That's it. David Cass, the executive director for of Americans for Tax Fairness, said the goal of Trump's government, by the billionaires for the billionaires, is huge tax cuts for the super rich, which would be achieved at the cost of slashing services such as education, Social Security, and Medicaid. Cass said, look, voters wanted to change, and I don't deny that. Okay, status quo, definitely not working. Okay, not good. However, what we're going to get with Donald Trump is actually the status quo on steroids. It's going to take all the things that are going wrong and make them worse. Because the reality is a lot of the problems that we are facing in this country today are a result of rich people. Okay? And you could trace a lot of the policies that have gone wrong back to Ronald Reagan, who worked for rich people. Okay? And for the politics around that time, the Republican Party of that time, making sure to flood more private money into our political system so that our politicians will work for those donors. So, yeah. Now, Cass says, quote, I think what's going to happen is that people will say, that's not actually what I wanted, the changes that Trump's going to be making. The rich are rich enough and don't need more tax cuts. How about helping me? Now, their response is going to be, oh, I'm going to help you. Help you? I'm not going to help you. No, you're not my donors. Yeah. Look, Trump doesn't need voters anymore. Okay? He's already won what we hope is his last election. Okay? I know. I don't put it past him to want to run for a third term, even though he's constitutionally barred from doing so. It wouldn't surprise me, though, because they don't care about rule of law, constitution, whatever. But anyway, if he tries, if he doesn't try to run for a third term, or think that he's going to try to be able to run for a third term, then he doesn't have to face off. He would know that he doesn't have to face off against any voters at any time. So you know what? That means the robbery that he's going to enact on us, because he already started it in his first term, is going to be much bigger and much more obvious. And he's not going to care about the future of the Republican Party because he doesn't care about the Republican Party as an institution. That it was a means to an end for him to enact the robbery on the American people. Okay? Now, the problem is, or one of the problems, I should say, is that Trump and Republicans, mainly Republicans, have been so successful in making voters believe that the government is the one that is actually doing the robbery. When in reality, it's the corporations, it's greedy CEOs, it's their allies on Capitol Hill. Okay? It basically, the enshittification of our political system has a lot to do with moneyed interests that want public money going into private hands. Okay, so the donors here, they won huge in this election. Elon Musk, he poured $250 million into this election for Donald Trump, and, well, he helped buy this election. Okay, Elon, he's already made billions of dollars off the government. He stands to make billions more. Okay, and that's it. And that's not even talking about the tax cuts that he's going to get. Okay. And then, of course, you have Jeff Bezos. Yeah. He's another billionaire who says he can't wait to work with Donald Trump to what? Gut regulations. Of course. Recently, he told the New York Times, Andrew Ross Sorkin, quote, if we're talking about Trump, I think it's very interesting. I'm actually very optimistic this time around. Yeah, well, no wonder, right? No wonder you told the Washington Post, don't endorse Kamala Harris. Don't you dare do it. Don't you dare do it. You know why? Because I'm really looking forward to working with Trump to gut regulations. He says, I'm very hopeful about this. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him. Because we do have too much regulation in this country. And there it is. Class solidarity will always trump everything else. And these billionaires all have class solidarity. Remember, it's the 99% versus the rest of us. It ain't red versus blue, America. It's the wealthy and their sycophants versus the rest of us. Okay? As far as regulations go, by the way, we got to get rid of regulations. There's too much regulations in this country. Regulations are just rules put in place to prevent companies from screwing us over, from dumping waste in our rivers, streams, or like in our backyards, poisoning our children. Okay? It's funny that they sit there and claim that, oh my God, business overregulated. We're overtaxed and overregulated, while they continue, these businesses, very same businesses, post record profits and are able to buy up all their competition. So they don't have competition. It's just a complete and utter farce. Okay. Look, if anything, the problem here is regulatory capture by these corporations. That's when the agencies supposedly responsible for protecting consumers actually come under the control of the very industries that they're supposed to regulate. We've already had that problem. Now that problem is going to get far, far worse. So expect more of that from this billionaires cabinet. More tax cuts for the rich, more deregulation, just more more of a robbery enacted on the American people. Expect them to assist Trump with that robbery, because that's what's going to happen. This next administration, it is going to contain, I think, one of the biggest upward transfers of wealth in American history. I think it'll make the Gilded Age seem very nice and modest. So, buckle up, everybody. Things are going to get bad. Health insurance executives are going into hiding following the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Wednesday morning, an assassin using bullets with the words deny, defend, and depose fatally shot the man responsible for making United Healthcare one of the wealthiest insurance companies with the highest rate of denials for healthcare. According to 404 Media, United Healthcare removed a page from its website listing the rest of its executive leadership, and several other health insurance companies have done the same, hiding the names and photos of their executives from easy public access. As of Thursday, United Healthcare's About Us page that listed leadership, including slain CEO Brian Thompson, redirects to the company's homepage. An archive of the page shows that it was still up as of Wednesday morning, but is redirected at the time of writing and isn't directly accessible from Google search or the site's navigation buttons. It's not just United Healthcare that is hiding its executives. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, which Thursday said it would walk back changes announced this week that would charge patients for anesthesia during procedures that went longer than estimated. So it's an arbitrary amount of time. Now redirects to its own leadership page, to its About Us page. Yes, so it goes from leadership to About Us, which has nothing, no information about who us is. So, great. Originally, that page showed leadership, including President and CEO Kim Keck, Executive Vice President and CFO Christina Fisher, and 23 more executives as of earlier this year, according to archives of the page, but is now completely inaccessible. Gaslighter on X spotted other major insurers following suit. In fact, nonprofit health insurance organization CareSource took down the individual pages for all of its executive leadership, including President and CEO Erhard Pretauer, Executive Vice President David Williams, Executive Vice President for Markets and Products Scott Markovich, Executive Vice President for Strategy and Business Sanjoy Mizunuri, CFO Larry Smart, and COO Fred Schultz. When you try to access those pages themselves, you get an error that say the requested URL was not found on this server. So, yeah, they're nuking their own pages. All right. I try to get information on this executive.
Bing, 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 boom. It's gone.
It's gone. Now, another nonprofit health plan, Medica, did the same. Medica's executive leadership page now redirects to its homepage, and its foundation leadership staff page now returns an error saying, oops, that page doesn't exist.
Whoopsie.
It's gone. But is it really a whoopsie? Elevance Health also took down its leadership page, replacing it with a message that says, sorry, that page is no longer here. Here's the thing. We don't even know what the motive of the shooter was. Yes, we can speculate. I've done plenty of it. Okay. I personally think that the shooter either dealt with UHG personally or had a family member hurt or killed by their profit-making policies. But I don't know for sure. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever know. But the fact that insurance executives are spooked makes me think that might be the case, that it's a burned customer. Or maybe they're starting to realize that their decisions for profit are having lasting negative outcomes and that people are angry about it. And I'm not surprised, okay? Now, take this thread on Reddit from r/medicine. It's actually one of the internet's top medical communities. These are doctors, okay, who spend an inordinate amount of time arguing with insurance companies, okay? If you ever wondered why your doctor only sees you for like 5 minutes, it's because that doctor is spending the majority of their day, of their time, arguing on the phone with insurance companies that want to deny every single test or procedure or medication that they can. They're out there saying, no, I have a patient here that needs this procedure or that needs this test done. Yeah, but do they really? I mean, I don't know. It sounds kind of expensive for us. I mean, if you really want, to do that procedure, it's going to be without us covering it. So understand that's one of the problems, okay? Now, the top comment on that thread, which received hundreds of supporting upvotes from other users, went after UHC's notorious track record of denying claims. And it was basically addressed to an unnamed applicant, saying, following a careful review of the claims submitted for emergency services on December 4th, 2024, it informs them that they are being rejected for coverage because you failed to obtain your prior authorization before seeking care for the gunshot wound to your chest. Wow. If you'd like to appeal the fatal gunshot, please call 1-800-555-1234 with the case number 123456789P to initiate a peer-to-peer within 48 hours of the fatal gunshot. That thread ended up being nuked by the moderators, because it was so popular. But it didn't stop other threads from popping up. Now, one doctor whose identity the Daily Beast had confirmed expressed sympathy for Thompson's family and said the killer should be charged with murder, but then said this, quote, I cannot even guess how many person years UHC has taken from patients and their families through denials. It has to be on the order of millions. His death won't make that better, but it's hard for me to sympathize when so many people have suffered because of this company or his company. Yeah. There's another confirmed doctor who wrote this. What has bothered me the most is people that put fiduciary responsibility e.g., the profits. Okay, because understand that in our current corporate structure, fiduciary responsibility to shareholders, i.e., to be able to give, to generate profits and then give that money to the shareholders. That is what a CEO, that's their primary function. Okay, so that's the corporate structure for you right now. Now, that doctor writes that what bothers him is putting that above human lives. None more so than this company as run by him. Again, Thompson, very notorious for running these these systems at UHC in such a way as to deny about a third of all claims. Okay, and I talked about the AI model used in their UHC Medicare Advantage plans. I mean, that had a 90% rate of error rate. Okay, and their error rate, I don't think it was an accident. I think that the AI program was running as intended to deny as many people legitimate claims as possible. That's the problem. Okay. Now he ends by saying, quote, "When others' human lives are deemed worthless, it's not surprising to have others view your life of no value as well." Yeah. Yeah. And look, here's the thing though, right? I mentioned the corporate structure. That's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is our healthcare system to begin with, okay? The United States is the only modern country to not have universal healthcare. Yeah, everybody else seems to have figured it out, except for us. Except that we have figured it out. The problem is that you have people in charge and you have people that are bankrolled by these very companies that don't want to go to a better system because it's not better for them. It's better for us, better for average people, better for patients, better for taxpayers, okay, better for the government, but not so good for the CEOs and the shareholders, okay? This is why we continue to be the only modern nation where people go bankrupt due to medical issues. Look, we should have universal health care, but our political parties are too corrupt by donations from these companies to vote in favor of it. So until that happens, there's going to be more deaths as a result of denials and more people that can't afford healthcare. The irony here is obviously universal healthcare would save more lives, including CEO lives, right? But that's not going to happen until we get money out of politics and get a truly universal system. Until then, unfortunately, these people, these executives, they're going to continue to hide. They're going to spend money on more security for themselves, okay, as more average people continue to suffer in order to feed these companies greed. They're going in the wrong direction. The right direction is Medicare for all. In what is not exactly a surprising development, a CBS News expose has detailed a decades-long trend of police officers illegally selling, in some cases, military-grade firearms for personal profit. Shocker. Now, the report found at least 50 cases of sheriffs, lieutenants, chiefs of police, and police captains across the country been involved in gun sales, illegal gun sales, over the past 20 years. The weapons sold are usually sold at markups of sometimes up to 90% and involve things like Gatling guns, machine guns, which sometimes, unsurprisingly, end up in the hands of violent criminals, who then, unsurprisingly, turn around and use those guns to commit murder and other violent crimes. According to the report, nearly 26,000 guns used to commit crimes in the United States between 2017 and 2021 alone originally belonged to either the U.S. military law enforcement, or another government agency, like, I don't know, Border Patrol. So now that said, we don't know how many of those weapons may have been lost or stolen versus sold to criminals, right? But according to government auditors who investigated the missing firearms over a 15-year period, found that more than 2/3 of those missing weapons had been illegally sold or traded. So I would bet there's a vast majority of those guns that, were sold by police. Mm. Now, do you remember when Republicans were raging about Fast and Furious? Obama been selling guns to the Mexican drug cartel. He been giving the guns to him. That's right. Well, hold on. For one, actually, this started back in 2006, before, before he did anything, right? Before he was president. And so he didn't do this, okay? But anyway, the whole outrage, the whole freak out was blown up in such a way where, like, oh my God, Obama's selling guns to Mexican cartels. No, it wasn't Obama selling guns. This was a federal program that was actually pitched as a way to try to track down leaders of the Mexican cartels so that they could be arrested by U.S. forces. So the problem is that it was a dumb idea, okay, where they would get straw purchasers to go in or allow these illegal straw purchases to happen from, like, federally licensed gun dealers in, like, Arizona, okay, where they would, like, stick these trackers on guns, like GPS trackers, right? Now the problem is those the batteries on those trackers only lasted for like a couple of days, okay, before they ran out and then couldn't be tracked anymore. And that's if the signal wasn't lost by, these guns ending up in somebody's trunk. So the technology there, it just wasn't there. And so this program fell flat and actually ended up giving guns to Mexican drug cartels. So congratulations, okay? And by the way, it also enriched firearms dealers, okay? Congratulations. Complete epic disaster. That said, this is not that. This is way worse, okay? Because, instead of... I understand the whole point of, like, the Operation Gun Runner. I believe that's what it was called originally. Before Republicans started calling it Fast and Furious because of a gun club, or I'm sorry, a car club. That one of the dealers, one of the officers, I think, was involved with, or agents. But anyway, that whole plan was to try to arrest the criminals. Okay, this is like, no, the cops, we are the criminals, and we're going to sell the criminals for personal profit. That's it. They can pocket the cash, and that's what it was about. One example in the report is Adar, Iowa's former police chief Bradley Wendt, okay, who sold a bunch of weapons. A jury convicted Wendt earlier this year of conspiracy to defraud the United States, lying to federal law enforcement, and illegal possession of a machine gun. I believe that was the aforementioned Gatling gun. Wendt told CBS News just days before a federal judge sentenced him to a 5-year prison term, quote, "If I'm guilty of this, every cop in the nation's going to jail." That is a damning quote. And that shows that we've got a real problem. Where is the congressional investigation, though? My guess, it's not going to happen. At least not under Republicans. Okay, although Democratic politicians and the public have stupidly bought the idea that, we've got so much crime, so we need more police. We can't do any police reform whatsoever. We can't even question the police anymore. And now we find out that, oops, oh, you know who's supplying the cartels with guns? Turns out it's us, our cops. Wow. Oh, and by the way, it's not just the cartels. Okay, no. Other police were busted selling high-powered rifles to sanctioned Russian arms dealers. Yeah. So, that whole thing happened. But how exactly does this happen? Well, unsurprisingly, it's because there's very little oversight on either the weapons law enforcement has provided or those it accesses through its investigations. Sometimes cops can just come in and, if there's like a bust of criminals or people with, machine guns, whatever, then just go take those guns and then they can disappear. They end up going home with some of these cops who can then sell them to like people who are collectors or what often seems to happen, criminals. Yeah. So that's what happens. All right. In fact, a 2008 audit by the Government Accountability Office found that $100 million worth of guns and ammo purchased by ICE, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, having to be unaccounted for. Where'd it go? $100 million in guns and bullets. Gone. What happened to them? They vanished into thin air? They went somewhere. Are we surprised? Shouldn't be. Remember, you have the Pentagon, who they're just laughing at those rookie numbers. They're like, no, those are rookie numbers. You need to pump those up. Okay. You know what happened? We just failed our 7th straight audit. Well, billions of dollars worth of guns, weapons, bombs, whatever. Can't account for it. We just failed another audit. But hey, keep giving us cash. And you know what? Republicans, Democrats in Congress, they're going to still keep giving the military, the Pentagon, more money. And yes, you're going to have local, state budget offices like the NYPD, for example. They're going to keep getting billions of dollars. Because, we got to stop the crime. You're the source of a lot of this crime, apparently. Or your guns, at least. All told, in this investigation, CBS News identified 58 cases where officers were charged with illegally selling guns, 56 of them were either convicted or had admitted their guilt. And that, unfortunately, is only a fraction. Why? Well, it turns out prosecutors have been generally reluctant to charge these cases. Really? Oh, so the cops just won't go after other cops. Great. The Bureau stated, quote, "It is our goal to educate." It's the ATF. "It's our goal to educate, not investigate," according to a 2017 law enforcement memo obtained by CBS News. Hey, no, we're educating, not investigating. Oh, and you wonder why cops are most part able to get away with this. Eric Harden, a former special agent in charge of the ATF's LA field division, said, quote, "We're not looking to prosecute fellow law enforcement officers." And there it is. Apparently, if you want to be a criminal, become a cop. Thin blue line, everybody. It's basically just cops protecting other cops in every single way possible, even going so far as to, if they find out that you're literally supplying weapons to Mexican drug cartels, they'll be like, "Oh, hey, whoa, we found out what you're doing. You might want to just stop it from now on." Put bygones be bygones. I mean, just go ahead and keep your, ill-gotten gains. We're not going to take that from you. Keep your car, keep your house, your condo, whatever. Just stop doing it from now on, okay? Just say, "I've learned my lesson, and everything's going to be fine. Everything will be good." Harden told CBS News, if you think I'm exaggerating, no, I wish I was. Harden told CBS News that if officers had persisted after being warned, i.e. they kept doing it, or if their weapons were traced to a crime, then they should be held accountable. Quote, "If we don't do this, then it'll be turning a blind eye and saying officers are above the law." Well, I don't know. It kind of sounds like to me that they are. I mean, if you know that they're doing a crime and you're like, "Just please stop that and we'll forget about this ever happened," then yeah, you are above the law. I mean, they're doing illegal arms trafficking. What? I mean, what could be worse? Well, here's the other thing. It does get worse. You see, a lot of the arms that were sold are machine guns, military grade weaponry. Very, very dangerous. Okay. How did they get them? I mean, they're supposed to be regulated by the ATF, right? Well, it turns out the ATF has been rubber stamping requests for machine guns for decades. Meaning that if a police station or a, whatever, right, a precinct wants machine guns and doesn't give a reason, they're just like, we want very heavy arms for this. In the case of Adair, Iowa, a couple hundred people that live there, I think at most. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Hey, we need a few hundred machine guns, for our little town. Well, okay, coming right up. Go ahead. What? Now, former supervisory special agent Tim Graydon, who worked at the ATF for more than 2 decades before retiring back in 2022, said this, quote, "There's no audits. None. There's no second guessing whatsoever. They weren't really, I don't want to use the word concerned, but I can't think of a better one. They weren't concerned. No accountability whatsoever. Oh, you need some machine guns? Go ahead. Have at it. We're gonna take weapons that were used in war, literal weapons of war, and we're just gonna give them to you. Have at it. Have fun." And then, of course, these cops get it, and they're like, "How can I personally cash in? Oh, I know. I'll sell it to these collectors, this guy seems a little sketchy, a little shady, but man, he's offering me 90% more than I asked for." Instead of having that be like a red flag and be like, "Whoa, dude, that sounds like you want to do something illegal with this weapon." They're like, "I don't care if you're going to do something illegal. Not my problem. Once it's out of my hands, once I got my money and you got your gun, you can do whatever you want. Don't care." Wow. That's what's going on. According to interviews with half a dozen longtime ATF officials who work directly on these cases, the Bureau does not typically assess the appropriateness of the weapons for a department or track where they end up. Because of course they don't. Of course they don't. Look, here's the final thing. If you believe that, hey, these prosecutions, they got 52 cases. Wow. That got people got put in prison. They got punished, right? You think that's going to put a stop to it? No. Because it's about to get worse. Trump's coming back into office, okay? And during his first administration, Trump had revoked an Obama-era executive order restricting the transfer of military equipment from the Defense Department to law enforcement nationwide. I mean, what do you think Donald Trump needs for his deportation force? Weapons. So that means more weapons into the hands of the police, and from the hands of the police, who knows where it's going to go. Joe Biden, as far as I know, never put that executive order back. And look, even if he did, Trump's going to be able to revoke it again. That means more guns for the police for whatever reason. Whatever reason. It doesn't matter. Those guns then go to the police, as I mentioned, which will likely end up coming from the police, being sold to criminals for personal profit. So, yeah, it's going to get real nice and bleak out there over the next 4 years.